determine the solution. If it is one solution, no solution, or infinitely many solutions. We will make the conclusion after solving the linear equation. Let's consider the first example. This is a first equation. The first step in solving this equation is to apply distributive property to remove the parentheses. So distributive property will mean that we multiply x by 2 plus we also multiply -1 by 2. So this is the -1 inside this parenthesis and this is the x inside this parenthesis. We have multiplied the x by 2 by these 2 outside, and we have also multiplied that -1 by the 2 out. So let's simplify. 2 times x is just 2x, and 2 times -1 is -2, and that equals 7. Now that brings us to a two-step equation. Solving a two-step equation, the first thing we want to do is undo any addition or subtraction. We do see a subtraction of 2 here, or we see a -2, so we add a 2 to remove it. And the rule of equation says whatever you add to the left-hand side, add the same thing on the right-hand side. So the reason why we're adding a 2 is right here, because now we have -2 plus 2 is 0. So we can cross out that term. Okay, so we can cross this out if we want. We can cross that out. And then we bring down this 2x here, and the 2x is now equal to 9. Where's the 9 from? 7 plus 2 equals 9. Okay, so this is the time that we divide to undo multiplication. So we are going to divide by the coefficient of x, which is 2. The coefficient of x is the number that multiplies x. There is a multiplication hiding between this 2 and this x. So we divide by 2 to remove that multiplication. So dividing by 2, remember that at that point, the equation says 2x equals 9. Dividing by 2, use fraction bar. This is what it's going to look like. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So you want 1x is equal to 9 fraction bar 2. Again, remember, it is okay to have a fraction for an answer. So this is just the same as x equals 9 over 2, or if you want to write this as a mixed number, then x is equal to, there are 4 whole 2's in 9, and then the remainder is 1 out of the divisor of 2. Okay, now that we have the solution, we are going to determine if this equation has one solution, no solution, or so many solutions. We only have one value for x. The only value for x in this equation is x equal to 9 over 2. 9 over 2 is also the same as 4.5. Okay, what does this mean? This means that this is the only true value for that equation. Let us find out. This is the meaning of true value. The equation said 2 parentheses open x minus 1 equals 7. This value right here is telling you that this is the only number that if you replace x with will make this side become 7. Let's find out. If we do 2 parentheses open, replace x with 4.5. So 4.5 minus 1. Does that equal 7? It's a question until we find out. 4.5 minus 1 is 3.5. So we now have 2 times 3.5. Does that equal to 7? Okay, we're getting close. 2 times 3 is 6. A half times 2 is 1. 6 plus 1 is 7. So 2 times 3.5 is 7. So 7 is equal to 7. That is the only number that makes that equation true. So this equation has one solution because x equals only one answer. Okay, so the equation has one solution. The equation has one solution, and that solution is x equals 9/2. From our strategies for solving equations with a variable on both sides, we will start by subtracting the variable from both sides. Now we have a 3x here and we have a 3x on this side. So let's go ahead and subtract. Remember, the original equation says 3x plus 1 equals 3x plus 2. So let's subtract 3x from each side and see what we get. So we go minus 3x, you must subtract the x term under the x term minus 3x. Now 3x minus 3x here is 0, so you don't worry about that. That will cross out. And then this positive 1 comes down here. Put your equal sign. Another 3x minus 3x here is also 0. So that can cross out. And this positive 2 comes down here as positive 2. Now you are left with a mathematical statement that says 1 is equal to 2. But we all know that 1 is not equal to 2. So when an equation ends with an untrue statement, it is said to have no solution. So to solve for x, remember the first step will be to dissolve the parentheses. So dissolving the parentheses means multiply everything in the parentheses by 4. So your equation becomes 4 times x plus 4 times negative 1. This positive 5 here, notice that it is not inside the parentheses. So it sits back here as positive 5. And you can put your equal to sign and say 4x plus 1 on the right-hand side. Okay, simplifying. 4 times x is 4x. So we have 4x. 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. So we now have that plus 5 that was sitting there. And then we have equal to 4x plus 1. Now this is the time to collect like terms, or we add like terms, or we subtract like terms. But how many terms are on the left-hand side? 3 terms are on the left-hand side. Among these 3 terms, negative 4 and positive 5 are like terms. They will add up. Negative 4 plus 5 is positive 1. So our 4x is not a like term to these other 2 because they do not have the x. So the 4x sits here. And then that equals, on the right-hand side, we have 4x plus 1. All right, something pops up. Right here, you can notice something. Do you notice that on this left-hand side, we have the same thing as the right-hand side? Yes. When you are solving an equation and it gets to this point where you have the same thing on the left-hand side and the same thing on the right-hand side, you can conclude that this equation has an infinite number of solutions. That means it has all the values of x will make it true. Okay, we will find out. All right, so this has infinitely many solutions. Again, the reason is because we have the same expression on each side. So we can conclude that it has infinite. Infinite means there are so many solutions that you cannot count. Infinitely many. That means you cannot count all the solutions. So it has infinitely many solutions. If the x is a number 2, then we will have 2 times 4, or 4 times 2 will be 8 plus 1 equals, on this side, we will have 4 times 2 again, which will be 8 plus 1. And that will give you 9 equal to 9. That means no matter what value you put for x, you will always have this side will always equal to this side. So that is why you conclude that it has an infinite number of solutions, because any value of x that you put in here, the two sides will always be equal. This is how you determine the type of solution of a linear equation.